us. And
I think most people say that's absolutely ridiculous. It's just really wrong. No one's going to persecute children. And it's America, I think it's where that comes from.
well, I hope you're right. I hope you're right. I mean, there are a lot of people out there who look issue with that, but yes. Ultimately, that's what our president is supposed to do, is to enforce law, not.
That's what he's doing. But most people that you're listening to on the radio are pretty intimate about this.
Yeah.
It's kind of low, and to use this as a side of this, I think most people look at it and say, well, that's clearly what the left establishment Republicans are doing.
Yep. All right, Sean. I appreciate your feedback. Have a wonderful evening. 877-235-9405. We're going to continue to take your calls here. We'll, of course, be starting our program here at the Hilton in 5-6 minutes or so. We're here to hear from our two candidates in the June 26 Republican GOP primary. In the 4th District Congressional race, Lee Wright was William Timmons. And, of course, we'd love to have your feedback. You can text me throughout the debate, 877-235-9405, and love to hear from you. Back to the phones. What you're upset?
Politicians take care of the U.S. American people instead of worrying about foreigners coming over here and separating kids and making it become illegal. Hello, didn't we elect politicians to represent the people of the United States? And what are they doing? They're protecting all the illegals.
Yep. Well,
why did we vote them? Why did we vote them?
Well, and the wall was one of the key issues in the 2016 race. Donald Trump, how many times do you hear about building a wall, establishing Yep. You're so right. Appreciate the call. Have a wonderful evening. Steve is Honey Path. Welcome in, Steve. Hey, Steve, on up live.
Hey, I just want to make abortion in our nation. We don't protect the child from the womb to be born alive in this country. And I just imagine big percentage of the same people that are crying about separation from parents that will not speak out on behalf of an unborn baby, ripped apart, by them, destroyed, never going to allow in our
See, appreciate your call. Quickly to Mike, who's in Spartanburg. Come in, Mike.
Hey, how you doing, sir?
Wonderful.
Hey, he needs to get right there. Democratic Party talk about how they love people. They know all about rip and share. I mean, they support Planned Parenthood and abortion and all that.
He certainly was not in the mood to enforce the law, that's for sure. And as I said earlier, there's a new sheriff in town, and President Trump is going to enforce the law. Yep. Yeah, well, and that's the intention of the president now, is to build the wall, protect the, and he said at the White House today, you don't have a country unless you have borders. Appreciate your call there. Have a wonderful evening. We're going to take a quick timeout. When we come back, we're going to get started with the program here. We're at the Hilton. Room's filling up. And we'll be back with Lee Bright, William Timmons, and we'll be with you for the next hour or so talking with our two candidates in the GOP primary runoff on June the 26th. Back in a moment here at the Hilton.
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome. We're glad that you're here tonight. This is a wonderful event for us. We'd like to go ahead and get started. Good evening. I'm Deb Sofield. I represent First Monday in Greenville. Here to bring greetings tonight as we get started is Drew McKissick. He is the chairman of the South Carolina Republican Party. And then we've asked Hope Walker to please come and lead us in the pledge. And then we'll begin with introductions for the debate and what happens tonight. Folks, if you don't mind, please try to come to the center or at least fill in for the front so these two candidates can see smiling faces. Drew, welcome.
Good evening, fellow Republicans. Are you proud to be Republicans this evening? Yes? Let me rephrase that now. Are you proud to be conservative Republicans this evening? All right. Just want to make sure I'm in the right place this evening. Didn't stumble into the wrong debate. Thank y'all for being here. Thank you for everything that you do for our party. Those of you who are activists or involved in the county party organization, some of our auxiliary organizations, we really appreciate all that you do. Those of you who are donors to the party that make everything that we do possible when it comes to getting out the vote in the fall, all the infrastructure that we put together, sincerely appreciate all that you do for our party. We've got a wonderful program here this evening. We've got two great candidates we hope to hear from and let them tell us more about where they stand when it comes to our party, our principles, our platform. And, you know, we've got just an incredible opportunity here to keep this seat in Republican hands this coming November. Trey Gowdy's done a wonderful job representing this district. Give Trey Gowdy a hand, who's not here this evening, if you would. He's done a fantastic job. Those are big shoes to fill, but we've got two good candidates here this evening. We look forward to hearing from them. Thank you again for being here this evening.
Drew McKissick, South Carolina Party Chairman. Please welcome Hope Walker. She's the Executive Director of the South Carolina Republican Party. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ladies and gentlemen, please know that we say one nation under God without a pause.
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. So good evening, I'm Deb Sofield. I'm with First Monday in Greenville. We are a Republican luncheon club. We meet the first Monday of the month at the Poinsett Club downtown. All are welcome. You can learn more at firstmondayingreenville.com. My team to make the organization run is Jill Kinty, who is your county treasurer, and Paul Wickensheimer, who is our clerk of court. We are so pleased to partner tonight with 94.5 WGTK The Answer, Joey Hudson of Upstate Live, and Weekend Pulse is representing the station. And we have an amazing team, WGTK, of our friends in the back. Joshua and Craig are helping us out tonight. We are so grateful to partner with the South Carolina Republican Party. We certainly appreciate Drew and Hope and the team who came up to make tonight's possible. And then, of course, Greenville County Party Chairman Nate Loip has helped make our event work tonight, and we appreciate the folks who've been such a big help. Big shout out to Dr. Orrin Smith with the Palmetto Promise Institute. He gave us valuable help and advice for tonight's event. You can learn more about Palmetto Promise by visiting palmettopromise.org. WYFF Channel 4 is our local station. They are live streaming tonight. Those of you that are listening on the radio, you can of course listen to us on 94.5 FM and then Channel 4. A couple of housekeeping details. I know the invitation said until 8:30. Friends, tonight's debate is simply 1 hour. We will be done at 7:30. The questions have already taken place up here. There will not be questions from the audience. We would like to give the opportunity for our speakers to move forward. If you need to use the facilities, they are out the door and to the right. So tonight is a live radio show. Joey Hudson and I will be live on the radio. And so what will happen is when this event is over, you are asked to applaud for your candidate. And then if you don't mind, we'd love for you to stay or leave quietly because we'll be doing a wrap-up up until about 8:30 or 9 o'clock tonight. There is not going to be a break. We will go right through until 7 p.m. Now here's the key. I'm going to give you a second to applaud your candidate, and then we're going to ask that you please hold applause until the very end because we are live on radio, a little hard to hear. And of course, we've got the live stream with South Carolina ETV and then Channel 4. The format is a little unusual tonight because we want to give you a chance to hear the speakers. They will both have a 3-minute opener, and then they will be asked a question. And so here's what makes this a little different. I will ask a question, and then the candidate will answer. The opposing candidate is allowed a 30-second rebuttal. If there needs to be a rebuttal to the rebuttal, we will allow the original questioner to fire back. The other option we have tonight is to offer the same question to both candidates. We want to keep it fair. Now, if one candidate chooses to say, we've already talked about that, we'll move to the next question. A little confusing. We'll do our best to keep it alive. The key is we want you to hear from the candidates in their own voice. Closing statements tonight, we will stop it. We'll ask the gentleman to please go to closing statements. There will be 94.5 seconds. In honor of 94.5, that's 1 minute, 35 seconds, and then we'll be able to close it down. So grateful for the help tonight with Nate and his team. I'd like to thank the ladies and gentlemen who helped on the check-in. Please note we have security in the building tonight, but we won't tell you who they are. And we're so grateful that you have joined us. Joey, are you ready?
Couple more minutes.
All right, couple more minutes. Well, with that, let me let you applaud your candidate for Lee Bright and William Timmons.
Yeah, that's good.
All right, folks, hang with us for a second. We're waiting to go live on the radio.
We love you, Lee.
We love y'all too, all of us.
They'll provide a free comprehensive quote and manage the entire project from setup to cleanup, all while working around your schedule.
I'm Tim Soleil, and here at Palmetto Painting and Coatings, we're passionate about our work and take pride in every one of our jobs. Just ask for one of the many references we
That'll be your
provide
30-second
to each
rebuttal.
of our
Can you see him?
clients. Learn more by visiting us at Palmetto Painting.
Lee, can you see that okay?
Or give me a call at 864-616-2309. That's 616-2309.
Then you go to the 30-second rebuttal.
And now live from the Hilton Ballroom in Greenville, 94.5 WGTK The Answer. First Monday in Greenville, the Greenville County Republican Party and the South Carolina Republican Party present the 4th Congressional Runoff Debate live from the Hilton. Now, here are your hosts, Deb Sofield and Joey Hudson.
Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us
first.
tonight. You be first. You're the boss.
I'm just the host.
No, you're the boss.
Loud round of applause so our listeners can hear you. Okay, Deb, now you can go.
Well, our two candidates were able to pick a number in the back, and the first speaker tonight is William Timmons. He won the first number. The second speaker will be Lee Bright. They will have a 3-minute opening for both, and then we will begin with our questions. Gentlemen, the timer is in front of you with Nate Loip. Please follow that. When you get to your 30 seconds, you will see our two 30-second people, and then we will move on from there. Please begin.
Well, first, thank you all for coming. I mean, this really is an incredible crowd, and I am honored to be before you. I want to thank the people that voted for me in the primary. I'm very fortunate to be here. There were a lot of great candidates, and it is not lost on me that A lot of people put their trust in me, and so I want to thank them first. This is an important race. We have to send somebody to Washington to fight for our conservative values. We are running out of time to get our country back on track. I think that I am unique because of my background. I have 4 years as a prosecutor. I know how important the rule of law is. I've taken on hard cases and I've won. As a small business owner, I've started 6 businesses. They've all been successful. I know how to balance a budget. I know how to make payroll. I know how challenging the federal government's regulation and taxation is on our small businesses, and I know what needs to change. As a state senator, I have fought hard in Columbia against the status quo. I have stood up to the most powerful people in this state, and I've told them that they can't do the things that they're doing. It's not right. I have fought for increased accountability and transparency, and I have proven that I'm an effective advocate as a legislator. That brings us to Washington. We have a $21 trillion debt. We have 12 million illegal immigrants in this country who are not paying taxes. We have a healthcare system that is on the verge of collapse. And most importantly, we have lost all trust in government, and they earned that. They earned it. I believe that I have the ability to go to Washington and to help them fix these major problems. The answer is not no to everything. The answer is we have to fix it, and we're running out of time. I am willing to work hard, do the right thing, and I promise you, if you call me, I will pick up. I swear to you that. My cell phone number is everywhere. Anyone in this room can call me at any time. Anyone in the 4th Congressional District can call me at any time. You'll have a decision to make. You've got 2 candidates. Our records are what they are. What are we going to do to help get this country back on track? Perhaps my strongest piece of information I would ask you to consider is that 9 state senators have endorsed me. They know me, and they know Lee, and they have put their trust in me. I hope I can earn your vote. Thank you all so much for coming, and I look forward to answering your questions.
So I want to thank the folks that turned out for me and have turned out for me in the past, and obviously we've got a tough election up ahead of us here in a couple of weeks, or actually in a week now. But I just want you to look at the records. I spent 8 years in the South Carolina Senate. I fought for gun rights. I fought to save your tax dollars. Fought against the tax increase that we stopped 2 years in a row. I fought for the unborn. I spent 8 years in the South Carolina Senate and never once voted for a budget. I filibustered budgets. Those budgets grew and grew. We've got a spending problem in Columbia. We've got a spending problem in Washington. But the choice is very clear. You can choose the establishment way, or you can choose the conservative way. I'm going to go and I'm going to fight the spending in Washington. I'm not going to cave. Now, we've got different records. Obviously, Senator Timmons and I, he talked about what happened with the endorsements. Well, the establishment down in Columbia likes Senator Timmons. I understand that. I mean, when it came to the budget vote that funded Planned Parenthood, he voted for the budget. So I can understand why they would want to support him instead of me. But I can tell you, so many times down in Columbia, a lot of times I see Kevin Bryan, our Lieutenant Governor here, a lot of times it was the 2 of us against the world. But you know what? We didn't go down there to make friends. We went down there to do the right thing. We went down there to fight for your tax dollars, fight for your gun rights, fight for the unborn. And I'll tell you what I did, and here's another difference. And this is, let me tell you, we and Timmons and I have gotten to know each other in this campaign, and we've gotten to be friends. And we're going to be friends after next week. Now, this week's going to be kind of rough, I'm sure, but next week we're going to be friends when it's over. But I'm going to tell you something. When it comes right down to it, I'm the guy that took on Lindsey Graham and his $10 million back in 2014. I'm the guy that stood in front of the train that is the establishment that's ruining this country, and William Timmons wrote him a check. Now, that's the difference. And that's the difference you need to know. So when it comes down to this race, there's a clear choice. It's the establishment or it's a conservative that's willing to fight and stand alone, sometimes just when there's 2 of you against 44. We were there. We did it. So, no, I don't have the endorsement of the majority leader of the South Carolina Senate. Because I didn't go along to get along. I went to war. And maybe, and I'll tell you this, and I realize Senator Timmons voted against the gas tax, and I appreciate that. I held the floor and went to war. It was more than just a no vote. I was at the press conferences. I was rallying as many people as I could. Me and Senator Bryant, now Lieutenant Governor Bryant, we fought and we bled and we paid a price. And they came after us. And I'll pay that same price in Washington. I'll go to Washington and I will go to war for you. And I won't go up there to make friends on K Street. I want to make friends on Main Street. I'll be there fighting for you, but I got to have your help to get me there. I can't write the biggest check, but I can work the hardest. And we got to turn out next week. Thank you for coming tonight.
Our first question is for William Timmons. I spent the last hour and a half or so on my radio show today talking about this growing outrage, if you will, over the separation of illegal immigrants, their kids, and the families. And the left and the media, they painted this wonderful picture. You see the images of these poor children behind bars and separated from their family because they want us and President Trump to be the bad guy. What's the solution, and what will you do if the people from the 4th District send you to Congress?
Well, first, Congressman Ralph Norman said it best. He said, unless there is a danger to the family, it is inappropriate to separate a child from that child's parents. Congress is not doing its job. It's not doing its job with immigration. It's not doing its job with debt. It's not doing its job with health care. Congress has to act. The Director of Homeland Security has just gone on the record saying that this is not Trump's fault. This is not the executive branch's fault. This is Congress's fault. Congress needs to legislatively fix our immigration system so we can enforce it. We're not enforcing it right now. We have 12 million people here illegally. Our border couldn't be more porous. We have to build a wall, we have to secure the border, and we have to create immigration policy that is enforceable in this country.
30-second rebuttal.
So here's the problem. You had the Gang of Eight. And basically, they've been promising folks amnesty. These folks are coming across the border because they think they're going to get amnesty. They think you're going to get and live in our country, which everybody wants to live here. Let's face it, but everybody can't live here. And how can we be a nation if we can't secure our borders? Now let's look at this. Marco Rubio and Lindsey Graham both were on that Gang of Eight, and both have been supported by Senator Timmons.
Thank you.
Give these people hope that they're going to be able to come into our country and live legally. And that's not the way to do it.
All right.
Lee, our format would allow you to answer that yourself as well. 1 minute,
Joey.
if you.
Yeah, I'd like to take
I
a
get
minute.
30 seconds again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. So first, I am not for amnesty, and I'm not for Lindsey Graham. I have written checks to a lot of people. I've written checks to Donald Trump after he won the primary. I'm the only candidate in this race that did that. I do not support amnesty, and I will do everything I can to fix immigration in a way that works for this country. I'm not going to give anybody a benefit for breaking the law, but I do care about people that want to be here, and I think that we got to make the whole system work.
Okay, Lee, 1 minute to respond to the
Right.
original question.
And to be lectured by the Democrats on families and children. I mean, this is the party that supports partial birth abortion. That would kill a child with forceps coming out of the womb. And they're going to lecture us. It's about votes. They want a permanent underclass. That's what they want. These people come here, that's what they want. And I'm going to tell you, if we don't get this immigration under control, we're not going to win another Republican election for White House. You can forget having Republican judges. You can forget overturning Roe v. Wade. And when you write a check to folks that are working against what we're trying to do, I know that you say you write checks to a lot of people, but I got to tell you, I don't load the enemy's gun. I don't do it. I mean, these guys, this Gang of Eight, this establishment class in Washington, they don't get it. We live in the greatest nation in the history of the world. We've got to protect our country. We've got to protect our southern border. I mean, if a nation doesn't have a border, it doesn't have sovereignty. I'm going to fight for America first and American sovereignty.
30-second rebuttal. Hold on, William. Folks, we appreciate the applause. We need to move on tonight. Please hold it till the end. 30-second rebuttal.
You know, you want to make this election about you and Lindsey Graham, making me Lindsey Graham. I guess I'm okay with that as long as I beat you 60-40 like Lindsey Graham did. I am not in favor of Lindsey Graham. My record in the Senate is the second most conservative record. The American Conservative Union ranks these things. Only one person in the Senate had a more conservative record than me. So my voting record shows that I'm a strong conservative. And this is not about Lindsey Graham. I am not for Lindsey Graham, and for you to try to do that is misleading. You need to campaign on your record, not on Lindsey Graham's.
Thank you. This question will go to Lee Bright.
Do I get a rebuttal for that?
It's a rebuttal.
Do I get a rebuttal?
Yes, he does.
All right. You have the rebuttal.
And that's why we're going to be friends when this is over. Because
We're going to rebut the rebuttal, yes.
All right, rebut the rebuttal, then you get the next question.
Let's just make this whole thing on immigration. So, bottom line is this. Lindsey Graham won 60-40, but he didn't win the 4th Congressional District. And let me tell you this, if we had registration by party, which Kevin Bryant, it was my bill, registration by party, but Kevin Bryant, during the motion period, when he was in the Senate with me, got it to the floor, and we got it to a vote, and we lost it 38-8 because we got too many establishment Republicans in the South Carolina Senate, and they've endorsed him.
This next question goes to, Lee, this is for you, Lee Bright. President Trump went against his gut and recertified the so-called Iran deal brokered during the Obama administration in hopes of preventing the regime from completing its nuclear weapons program. But President Trump warned that he would not do so again unless Congress altered the deal's terms to ratchet up enforcement against Iran noncompliance. What would you advise the president to do about recertification of the Iran deal?
Well, I got two things that I thank God for. Well, many things I thank God for, but two things that I think about on a pretty regular basis. One is that Barack Obama is not our president anymore. Two is that Donald Trump is our president. So when it comes to negotiating with foreign countries, I've got so much trust in Donald Trump. And I will tell you this, I don't know, I saw the ads and obviously I don't know all what was said, but I don't have many problems with things Donald Trump says and does. And I know William Timmons said that, but I haven't said that because I got to tell you, I'm a big fan of Trump because I was attacked by the media for 8 years, nonstop. I mean, I dealt with fake news before he ran for president. I've been demonized for 8 long years. So when I saw somebody else that was given as good as he got, that was somebody that I was not going to criticize.
William?
Well, I guess I'm going to agree with Senator Bright. The president is going to be able to renegotiate these deals, and we got a bad deal under Obama, and I'm confident he will get a better one, and I'm excited to support him for that. We keep getting off the subject here. We keep getting going down these rabbit holes of dishonesty. I defended the president in October of last year, and my words have been misconstrued. We need to stick to the record. We need to stick to the facts, and we got to stop being misleading.
Mr. Timmons, would you like that same question? Would you like the same Iran question?
Going off subject because he gets a rebuttal.
And we're good.
We'll go to the next question.
Yeah, next question.
You don't want the same question?
No, we're good.
All right, Joey.
Last week, the American Medical Association, and this is for William, yes. The American Medical Association declared gun violence in America as lethal as any infectious disease. They passed a broad resolution supporting a number of items that they think will prevent future gun violence, including laws that would require licensing and safety courses for all gun owners and also for all firearms to be registered. Talk with us about the Second Amendment.
Well, I fully support the Second Amendment, and I think that we need to enforce our laws. And we need to give law enforcement more resources to enforce those laws. All these problems we've had with school shootings and mass violence, you can go to the root cause, and that is law enforcement failure to some degree. Parkland, the school shooting, the shooter, the community had called law enforcement 45 times. 45 times. And the law enforcement agencies played hot potato. FBI, county, FBI, nobody wanted to deal with it. We can't have that. We gotta prevent these tragedies by giving law enforcement the resources to do their job. We gotta integrate them, we gotta connect them, and we gotta hold them accountable when they fail. So we have to make our society safer, and the way we do that is by enforcing our laws, not by giving us new ones.
Lee?
So I just want to tell you how I started being a pro Second Amendment guy. Was my dad had to work nights and for a while, and we had a rattle at the door. The whole family was horrified, and my mom said, "If you don't let go of that door, I'm going to blow a hole through it." And guess what? The door quit rattling. So there's nobody going to take an American's gun as long as I'm in the Congress, because we're going to fight these leftists. And I get another minute. Can I take the minute now?
You can answer the same question if you'd like.
You know, I have talked 6 hours at one. Senator Bryant can attest at one time. But I got to tell you something. It's about people control. It's not gun control. It's people control. They want to take our guns away. And you look, and they tried it. They tried it when we had the shooting in Charleston. If you remember. And Clement Pinckney was Senator Pinckney was one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. But they had that shooting in Charleston, and the next thing you know, they were trying to take guns away until they found out that the FBI, back to Senator Timmons' point, the FBI had dropped the ball. And then, of course, it was Obama's FBI, so he couldn't be criticized. So they just decided to basically blame it on 25,000 South Carolinians who died defending their state. So I will say this, the FBI's got major problems, and I look to go up there, and mainly instead of getting these problems under control, they're attacking our president, and that's got to stop.
So Senator Bright keeps trying to take things and say how he's different on the Second Amendment, on pro-life, on taxes. We are no different. We support the same policies. The difference is who has the ability to move the ball, who has the ability to change Washington. I have proven that I can change Columbia, and I would love to get to Washington and try to shake things up in a positive, disruptive way.
Makes sense.
Do I get the count?
30 seconds.
30
Yes.
seconds. Well, I'll have to say this. Now, I quit taking the newspaper, but I do read some stuff online. And I don't think anybody here believes you fixed Columbia. Because if you did, they'd be coming after you, not the establishment endorsing you.
No. 30 seconds.
Yep. All right. So I have heavily invested in my own campaign. I'm mostly self-funding. Washington has spent $800,000, not against him, against me. They're afraid of one of us. It's not him.
Well, I can
Lee,
tell
this
you.
next question is for you.
Okay.
All right.
I'm sure I'll answer it.
Some defense experts have proposed numerous cuts to the U.S. military spending. They argue the United States would be better off taking a wait-and-see approach to distant threats while letting friendly nations bear more of the cost of their own defenses. Should the military budget be trimmed in a prudent fashion as part of an overall plan to downsize the government and balance the budget?
The military is not the part, not where to go to start making cuts. I mean, we're still in a dangerous world. I mean, China's building aircraft carriers. They're threatening their neighbors. Now, I will say this, being policeman of the world, I'm not for that. I mean, I think that our military is to protect American citizens and protect American interest. And these Europeans that mock us and scoff at us and try to besmirch our president, but yet they want us to defend them. I mean, the bottom line is this. I think the American military should be there to protect Americans. I don't believe in this policeman of the world thing, and that's a globalist thing, and that's something that a lot of folks ascribe to, but I don't. I believe in, but I do want to have a strong military because we are still in a dangerous world. And I'm really concerned about China because they're building up for something. And, I would hope that our president does like he's been doing and continue to support what he's done with Taiwan.
Well, I've got to say, Senator Bright and I agree yet again. Military spending is not up for grabs. We have to fund our military. We have to make sure that they are able to defend us. It is literally one of the most important things the federal government is supposed to be doing. They shouldn't be doing a lot of things they're doing, but that's one of the things they should be doing. So I would not support any cuts in military spending, and I would make sure that the generals and that the Department of Defense has whatever resources they need to defend this country.
Question? Many believe Congress has shown a lack of leadership for the past few years when it comes to avoiding government shutdowns. The obstacle that lawmakers keep setting up spending showdowns that they can't seem to resolve. Instead, they employ short-term, stopgap spending measures that push hard decisions down the road. As our congressman, how will you find a compromise to stop the threat of government shutdowns?
For you, William.
Thank you. Washington has a major spending problem. We have $21 trillion in debt. This is unsustainable. If we don't get a hold of it soon, we're not going to be able to. So, again, we've got to contrast the individuals you have to choose between. I have 6 businesses. I've balanced all their budgets. They've all been successful. Senator Bright has a record of not being able to balance his budget. And I tell you what, I got calls the day after I won, got into the runoff. I got calls from dozens of his former employees. It was bizarre. I mean, it was bizarre. Gut-wrenching stories. Gut-wrenching stories of being fired a week before Christmas. I mean, I got to tell you, we need to send somebody to Washington that can balance a budget, and there's a strong discrepancy between the two of us on that issue.
And I'm going to want a minute on this one, too, and a half and maybe 2 minutes, my minute rebuttal. And so let me explain to you. I voted against every budget when I was in Columbia for 8 years. There's tons of people that had financial trouble in 08. That was a crash. I think you probably were in law school when the economy crashed. I'm still dealing with that. I know a lot of people brought out employees that, complained about Trump. The president himself has had several businesses file bankruptcy. I never filed bankruptcy. I carried the debt. But I will tell you that, when I started out a little different. And I'm going to can I take my minute now?
Yeah, we're going to take your minute. Same question.
So I would argue that the houses I lived in as a child cost less than the cars you drove. So my upbringing was a little different. I didn't have a safety net nor a trampoline to start businesses with. So I think anybody that didn't live through 08 with that crisis, and like I said, I didn't file bankruptcy. I should have shut the business down, but when you start a business from scratch, and I had hundreds of employees over the years, and sure, there are some disgruntled employees. I mean, I know you probably don't get that at the yoga studio or at the other businesses, but I had hundreds of employees, and tractor trailers are $120,000 a set. I had 110 trailers at one time, 65 tractors. I mean, it was a big business, and when it crashed, fuel prices went through the roof. We didn't survive. I don't kick people when they're down, and obviously maybe that's your problem with our president.
Yeah.
So, Senator, I'm not kicking you when you're down. I'm describing the difference between me and you and our abilities to be successful. I have worked harder than anyone to be successful in my businesses. I have taken great risk. I have been told that most of my businesses were terrible ideas, and I have proven them wrong. I ran for the Senate, and everybody said, there's no way you can win. He's been there for 37 years. And then when I got to Columbia, they said, you can't make a difference. And I promise you I have, and that's why those 9 senators are supporting me.
30 seconds.
So the bottom line is this. I mean, I don't have a trust fund to fall back on. All I've got, I didn't have anything to fall back on. I mean, like I said, we started out differently, but the bottom line is this. I never filed bankruptcy. I fought through it. It has been a struggle, and until you've been there, until you went through 08, like I said, that was probably, they call it the Great Recession. And, to attack folks on businesses, like I said, I think that may be your problem with Trump, is that he's failed in business before.
We ready to move on, or?
30 seconds.
Okay, 30 seconds.
I fully support the president, and it's just bizarre that you even take it there. I've never been given $1 from any trust. So let's just get that out there. And you know what? These are the types of excuses that leadership is making in Washington. These are the types of excuses that get us to $21 trillion worth of debt. So I don't want excuses, I want results.
Okay, 30 seconds and we're going to move on, okay?
30 seconds. So you're telling me with a yoga studio and a CrossFit, you earned $200,000 to put in the state Senate race and $800,000 to put in the congressional race?
I'm happy to respond to that. Actually, it was the property I bought. I made $5 million off of it because I bought property for $300,000 and it's worth $6 million now. And I also invested $10,000 in a company that my own father said I was crazy to do. And guess what? 6 years later, I got $1 million check. So that's what you call good business sense. That's what you call taking risks.
Okay, let's move on. This question for you, Senator Bright.
I don't know. I was kind of liking that. I just...
Last Tuesday, 1st District Congressman Mark Sanford lost his bid for re-election. As you know, President Trump sent a last-minute tweet condemning Mr. Sanford, and he took credit for pushing Katie Arrington across the finish line. I understand that Mark Sanford has been a constant thorn in the president's side, so he may not be a great example of that. But is there ever a time, and the question for you, Senator Bright, and then Senator Timmons, your response too, is there ever a time that we can disagree with the president without being accused of being disloyal to our country?
Well, I think that is, that's definitely the case. I think some of the things that Sanford attacked him on were probably personal in nature, and I'd have to say that I feel like the president's done a good job. If I disagreed with him, I'd tell you, but I think he's done a great job on North Korea. I think he did a great job on the tax cuts. And when it comes to the budget, obviously with the Congress he has now, with the establishment up there in Washington, what's he got to work with? I mean, it's disheartening, the fact that we have the Senate and the Congress and the White House, but we don't do what's conservative. And we got the same problem in Columbia. The establishment runs things. And they give lip service during campaigns, and they talk about being a conservative, but then they go down there and, prime example, vote for budgets. Vote for spending they shouldn't vote on. So, I mean, it's one of those things where we got to get these budgets under control. We got to be able to say no. And, fundamentally, it's the ability to have spine and backbone when the leadership puts the pressure on you.
William, 30-second rebuttal.
I even got lost in the question. What was the question?
Well, last week, Mark Sanford lost his re-election.
I fully support the president. I fully support his efforts to help get our country back on track. So a couple weeks ago, he said that he wanted to ban all automotive imports from Germany so there was not a Mercedes-Benz on Fifth Avenue. I got to tell you, if I'm your congressman, I'm not going to go on CNN, I'm not going to Fox News and say he's crazy. I'm going to go to the White House and I'm going to say, do you understand what that will do to the 4th Congressional District? That would be disastrous for us. So I support the president, I will advocate for his policies, and if I'm in Congress, I will do everything I can to help him get this country back on track.
Lee, a rebuttal or move on?
Move on.
Okay.
William, this is for you. Sanctuary city loophole defies logic and is harmful to our national security. Some cities place a gag order on their law enforcement officers by exploiting a loophole in the Illegal Immigration Reform and Immigrant Responsibility Act. While the law requires cooperation with federal officials on immigration matters, sanctuary cities get around it by employing don't ask, don't tell strategy. Are you prepared to vote on cutting millions of dollars of state funds if they do not comply with the law?
Absolutely. And it goes back to this whole thing. The laws matter. Laws matter. If you are a mayor in Los Angeles, you can't just say, I'm not going to enforce immigration laws. That's crazy. In the state Senate, I was able to get a budget proviso into the budget that will ban sanctuary cities. It will literally take away all funding from any governmental agency that is not complying with federal law. Would it blow your mind to know that if this budget proviso doesn't pass, the chief of police in Greenville City could just say, well, we're not going to enforce these laws. Nothing will happen to him. You know what we could do? We could file a lawsuit. 3 years later, we might get results. So I will do everything in my power to support the rule of law. I will do everything in my power to ban sanctuary cities like I've done in the Senate. And We've just got to enforce our laws. It's that simple.
So you mentioned state funding. I think we should deny federal funding. And when it comes to the, basically the mayor, I believe, of Oakland was basically warning people about the ICE crackdowns. That sounds like obstruction of justice. I mean, the fact that we're not holding these people accountable. And that's the problem with our country. We're a nation of laws, and we've got to enforce these laws. Same thing as the border, same thing across the country, and we've got to enforce it for Democrats and Republicans. And the fact the way the FBI has gone after our president and not gone after these Democrats is shameful.
Any of my questions for you? The federal government has expanded into many areas that should be left to state and local governments, businesses and charities and individuals. That expansion is sucking the life out of the private economy and creating a top-down bureaucratic society that is destroying American traditions. Cutting federal spending would enhance civil liberties by dispersing the power from Washington. What have you seen and observed by your preparing for Congress, and where would you begin to cut federal spending?
Well, one issue we've got is that this confusion about charity. I mean, charity is what you give to your brother, and for government to be involved in charity is just wrong. I mean, when you give to your brother, it's charity, but when the government comes and forces you in the subject of Planned Parenthood or anything else that's not outside the scope of the Constitution, when they force and take your tax dollars, that's tyranny. It's not charity. So I wish that they would unleash Americans. I'll give you a prime example. There was an earthquake in Charleston around the turn of the century, and the Charleston mayor sent out all these, last century, sent out all these newspaper ads asking for help. The next thing he had to send out was something saying, don't send us any more help, because he had all he could handle. I mean, the American people are good people. They're helping people. We don't have to rely on the government through coercion to help people. Americans always help people.
So I agree with Senator Bright. We need to help our own communities and not be told how to do that by the federal government. One thing that I want to touch on, the IRS persecution of conservative nonprofits during the Obama administration is just wrong. And we got to hold them accountable. They weren't held accountable. People should have gone to jail. And we got to get Washington accountable, and we got to get it accountable soon.
Okay. We ready to move on, guys? Or you want 30 seconds for that? Good? Okay. Obviously, both of you guys are running to fill the seat being vacated by Congressman Trey Gowdy. On Fox News Sunday yesterday, he told us about a meeting late Friday, even joked about the fact that a group of congressmen were working late, pertaining to the FBI's investigation of Hillary Clinton's email server and other potential surveillance abuses. Congressman Gowdy says that the House will use its full arsenal of constitutional weapons to gain compliance on outstanding subpoenas. These subpoenas were issued back in March. This mess will probably be there when one of the two of you go to Congress. What do we do when the Department of Justice and the FBI just ignore Judiciary Committee subpoenas?
This is Exhibit A on what's wrong with Washington. We have a different set of rules for the elected officials, the career politicians, than we do for the people in this room, the people in this country. We have to change that. We cannot accept the continued inaction. We have a prosecutor chasing the president. He's on this wild fishing expedition, and he's not getting anything, but they're going to keep going. And where is the special prosecutor to investigate the blatant violations of law? Where is that special prosecutor? Why is the Congress being given the runaround by the people that are responsible for enforcing our laws? We're reaching a tipping point. If we don't start respecting the rule of law soon, we're not going to have a country anymore.
Lee?
So there's such a thing as contempt of Congress, and ignoring these subpoenas. These people need to be dealt with. And our Congress still doesn't step up to the plate. They've got to. And I hope that what was said by Congressman Gowdy and what was said by Paul Ryan, I hope that comes true. And I hope they do get after this, because it's ridiculous. I mean, the things that Hillary Clinton's gotten away with, it needs to be prosecuted on, and the expedition that's gone after our president, the text messages, all the evidence we have, somebody needs to pay the consequences. So I hope Congress stands firm and doesn't lay back on this.
Lee, you also can have a minute to answer that, or are you good?
I'm good.
Good? Okay. On to the next question. You good, William? Okay. On to the next question, Deb.
There's a movement in America to fund public education preschool through 16 years, vocational, community college, even some university, regardless of parental income, to ensure the next generation can compete in the global market without student loan debt. What are your thoughts on the changes that include the addition of free vocational and community college?
Lee Bright up.
So it goes back to individual freedom and individual responsibility. And when kids pay for their own college, I think they have a little more respect for what they accomplished. I don't think I'll get a single Bernie Sanders voter, but I just feel like I do think the cost of education has just gone absolutely through the roof. In South Carolina, you know, we added the lottery, and that was supposed to help education, but the cost, they basically just absorbed it. And I'm going to steal one of Kevin Bryant's lines since he's here. Colleges are the ones that are always building but are always broke. They're always coming to the legislature asking for more and more. They're always coming to the federal government asking for more and more, but yet they're living an ivory tower lifestyle. And it's time that we basically bring the educational elite back to real America.
William Timmons?
So I actually think education the federal government should have nothing to do with it. It should push down decisions and dollars as close to the child as possible. We have so much waste in bureaucracies and institutions that we don't need. We have tens of thousands of people that are doing the same thing at the state level, and it's just wasting your money. That money should be going to the student. That money should be going to the teachers to help the students, not to Washington to have thousands of people working to try to figure out the best way to educate kids. We can do that here.
Lee, you like 30 seconds for rebuttal?
Well, you know, I served on a local school board, and of course I was one of the only school choice people on the school board, maybe the only one in the state. But you know, it should be the parents and the teacher, and you know, I do think we should eliminate the Federal Department of Education. I mean, that would be where I would start when you start eliminating the bureaucracies in Washington. So I think we probably need a wrecking ball up in Washington to deal with the spending.
30 seconds?
Sure.
So I love that you brought up your time on the school board. The first time you ran for office was 1999. It's now 2018. I really don't think people should be serving in office for that long. I think that we need term limits. We got to continually get new and fresh ideas into the process. We can't keep people in office for decades and decades. You've seen it in Columbia. You've seen it. You've seen it. We can't have career politicians. That's the biggest problem with our state and country.
Senator Bright, 30 seconds.
So I ran for the school board because my two daughters were starting, and my wife and I had a debate over public versus private school, and that was kind of how that started. But I'm proud of my time on the school board. I served 8 years in the Senate, and I'll have to say the establishment came after me in my reelection. Now they're supporting you, and that should tell everybody something. I don't know how long it'll take for you to gain the establishment support in Washington, but I would guess not more than 6 months.
Next question.
30 seconds?
Okay, quick, and then we're going to move on.
Again, the establishment isn't afraid of you in Washington. They are not spending a dollar to prevent your arrival. $800,000, that is more than 4 times the amount you're going to spend in your campaign, has been spent to smear my name dishonestly using misleading and false attacks. Washington is afraid of one of us. It's not him.
Okay, let's move on. Next question is for Senator Timmons. Senator Lindsey Graham said last week that the Inspector General's report shows that, or what the deep state looks like. And obviously both of you will have a chance to answer this. Do you believe that there is such a thing as the deep state, and what does it mean to you in terms of how you would serve as a United States congressman?
This is a total gotcha question, because I'm going to agree with Lindsey Graham. We have a major problem in Washington. So the deep state is, in my opinion, it's burrowed political appointees that are now in bureaucratic career positions, and they are disrupting Trump's efforts to try to fix the problems facing this country. They do not want to remove career politicians' influence over the process. They do not want to remove special interest control over the government. Trillions of dollars are at stake. There's no way they're just going to roll over. So we absolutely have a problem. We have to wrestle control of our government back to the people and take it away from the bureaucrats and the career politicians.
Lee Bright, 30 seconds.
Yeah, I think they've embedded themselves in the bureaucracies. I think that it's very dangerous what the FBI has done and is doing. I have very great concerns about what's happening now, but I will say this, that I'm not surprised you agree with Lindsey Graham. I noticed some of his folks that work for him are supporting you, and I challenge you at the end of this week to say that Washington and the swamp do not spend any money attacking me, because we know it's coming. Watch the attack ads and see if all of them are paid by William Timmons or if it's a third-party establishment group out of D.C.
30 seconds.
Luke, 30 seconds.
Yeah. So, Senator, we spoke earlier this week, and I told you that I would contrast our record, but I would not go negative. And I told you that if you thought I did something that was misleading or false, that you just had to text me and I would take it down, because I have never run a negative ad in my entire life, and I will not. That said, I understand how challenging it is when Washington comes after you and says horrible things that you didn't even say. So if that's coming for you or me, I'm sorry, it's not me, and it won't be me.
30 seconds, or are you ready to move on?
Well, I just wanted to everybody in the listening office and viewing on television that he made the statement earlier that Washington was only coming after him, but let's see the group that comes after me versus the group that came after him, and you compare the two, and I promise you the establishment will be the one that will come out with the long knives for me this week.
Next question is me and Lee. What will be your top international priority in Congress?
Well, I've got to tell you, we've got to basically, and even from an international standpoint, we've got to protect our borders. I mean, we're being invaded. And our Congress doesn't seem to get it. Our president gets it. The American people get it because they elected him president. We've got to get these borders under control. I mean, and when it comes to other issues, I mean, you look at what's happening in the South China Sea, what I mentioned before, China's getting very aggressive, Russia's been aggressive. We just have to be on our watch. I mean, we still live in a dangerous world ruled by force. We have to have the strongest military on the planet, but that doesn't mean that we have to subsidize the rest of the world's military. We need to protect American interests, and we need to fund our military, but I don't want to get involved in all these skirmishes and conflicts around the world. We've done way too much of that. That has not worked in the past. Basically, if we're not under direct threat, then I think we need to stay out of it. Now, Israel, obviously, we've got to protect Israel because they stabilize the Middle East, but some of these other countries need to start picking up the check.
30 seconds?
30 seconds, William Timmons.
International agreements must be renegotiated. The Obama administration has taken an approach to foreign policy that is not in our best interest. We are an exceptional nation. He was an American apologist. He literally went around the country, went around the planet, creating agreements that favored other nations. And President Trump has to be fully supported to renegotiate all of them so things are fair and in our interest.
You good? 30-second rebuttal, or good? Move on. Next question is for William Timmons. Let's assume for a moment that the wall has been fully funded and is built. We have this wall that we've been talking about for years now. What are the next steps that we need to take to solve our immigration crisis?
So I've talked to a lot of people in Congress about this, and I don't think there's any way that we're going to be able to build the wall unless we do everything at once. We're going to have to strike a deal, a resolution, where you build the wall, you secure the border. You have to be sensible with the dreamers. We can't give them everything, but we're not going to deport them. And then the other thing is we have 12 million people here that they got to get on the IRS's radar. They're taking from the system, and they're not giving. And honestly, a lot of those people got to be deported because not only are they here illegally, but they are committing felonies and they are ravaging our society. We can't allow these people to break our laws and get an advantage. So we got to do it all at once. We got to find a resolution. That's the only way we're going to get it done. And I am confident that the president is going to be the deal maker because that's what he does.
Senator Bright, 30-second rebuttal.
So the wall's built. We've got to deal with these visa overstays. That's half of our immigration issues, visa overstays. And I think we've got to move some folks back out of this country. I mean, the bottom line is I am for deportation. I think we've got folks that are here that shouldn't be here. We've got to basically, we've got to observe the rule of law, and we are a nation of laws, and although it doesn't seem to apply to Hillary Clinton and the Democrats, we need to be a nation of laws and observe those laws.
We good to move on that? Okay. Deb?
Lee, this is for you. What South Carolina issue deserves more attention from our congressman?
Well, I'll tell you that there's one thing that I was passionate about on the spending side, which is something that didn't push much spending at all in Columbia, was that was our port. And obviously, that's an economic engine for South Carolina. I would like to see that our port's taken care of. And another issue that I think that there may be a disagreement here, and he can speak for himself, but we've got all this natural gas off the coast of South Carolina. I mean, you think about what we could do for our national security, and we can export that natural gas. You can liquefy that stuff and actually export it. We got a place in Georgetown, a steel factory. I mean, there's things we could do to just really drive the economy in South Carolina. And I know there's going to be some issues with conservationists, and obviously they came after me in the past, but the bottom line is this: that is a tremendous opportunity. Our president's looking at it, and I know that we've got some good rhetorical candidates that have been on one side, but people can be swayed. But I thank the president for what he's done on that issue, and I'd like for us to explore it.
I mean, I generally agree with Senator Bright. We have an incredibly important economic development opportunity in this state. We have international companies from all over the world that have chosen Greenville and Spartanburg, South Carolina as their headquarters. We have such economic opportunity, and we have to make sure that we can continue driving our local economy and contributing to the prosperity of this great and unique upstate.
Senator, we're good to move on. One final question, and then we'll move into our closing statements by the candidates. Let's talk for a minute about religious liberty. Did the cake baker deserve to win a Supreme Court case? Why? And did the Supreme Court decision give you hope?
It did. It did. And that's, you know, like I said, two of the things I'm thankful for every day is Obama's gone and Trump's here. So I'm glad we got a new Supreme Court justice on there that's conservative. I'd hope to see that he gets to pick a couple of more. You know, it is a challenge, you know, in getting nominees through the Senate. You know, Lindsey Graham, who has you know, always seemed to work with the Democrats getting their nominees through, has, you know, on the other side, they don't seem to have his philosophy. So it's going to be challenging. We need more conservatives, obviously, to get those through. But I think it was judged right. I think religious liberty is under assault. I mean, Christians are under assault. There's no question about it. I mean, Obama and his administration just went to war on us. And it's something that, you know, whether it's, you know, taking, you know, it's amazing that the federal government would be involved in marriage. I mean, you think about that. I mean, how that even came to be a case. The federal government got involved in marriage and took that away from the states. I mean, the federal government's out of control. Our founders would never stand for it, and we shouldn't stand for it.
Senator Timmons.
Thank you. I was so relieved that Supreme Court got something right. I got to tell you, judicial activism has been plaguing our society for the last few decades. When Congress doesn't act, the Supreme Court takes it upon themselves to change the law of the land. And then Congress doesn't have the ability or the votes to fix it. We have to legislate. Congress has to fix these problems.
You good?
Well, there's something that we don't talk about, but we should talk about. You know, Congress has a power that for some reason they've forgotten. I would take the worst judge on the Ninth Circuit, and I'd impeach him. The first time he broke and ignored the Constitution, we can impeach a federal judge. The U.S. Constitution says they're judges for life in good behavior. Well, if you ignore the Constitution, that is not good behavior. And they ought to be out of here. They're tyrants. Now, I'm not saying that we should do that haphazardly, but I'm telling you, you take the worst federal judge and you get rid of him, and the rest of them will maybe look into the Constitution.
Okay.
Thank you. William Lawrence, 30 seconds. Ready? Well, folks, we have come to the end of our debate tonight. We're so grateful for the candidates who have joined us and their teams that are here. Plenty of literature out in the hallway, and they would love to speak to you afterward. So we will now go to a closing statement, and in honor of 94.5 WGTK, The Answer, each closing statement will be 1 minute and 35 seconds, which is 94.5 seconds. We will start with you, William Timmons.
So first, I want to thank everyone for coming tonight and everybody for listening on the radio. If you want to learn more about me, my website is votetimmons.com, and my cell phone number is 864-616-8821. If you have any questions, please call me. I would love to speak with you. This is an extremely important election. Trey Gowdy has gone to Washington, and he has made us proud. We need somebody that is willing to work hard, do the right thing, who's beholden to no one, and who will support the president to help fix our country. I have proven that I'm a strong advocate in the Senate. I have my experience as a prosecutor, as a successful small business owner. I believe that I can help change things in Washington, and I am willing to work harder than ever to get our country back on track. I hope that I can earn your vote, and thank you all for coming. Thanks.
This election for Congress is crucial, and you're going to see a lot of attacks going back and forth by third parties, and it's really about this speaker's race. I've committed to support Jim Jordan or whoever comes out of the Freedom Caucus. I'm quite confident that there will be a different decision on the other side, but I have made that commitment, and I will tell you this. The statement was, I'm beholden to no one. Well, let me tell you something. I'm beholden to you. The voters of the 4th Congressional District is who I'm beholden to. You know what I'm going to do. How often in an election do you get to elect somebody that's going to do exactly what he says, that you've got a record that you know what he's going to do? There's no question what I'm going to do in Washington. I'm not going to give you excuses about why I wrote a check to Lindsey Graham. I'm not going to give you excuses about why I badmouthed our president. And I'm not going to give you excuses why I voted for budgets that funded Planned Parenthood. I'm going to do the right thing every time. I'm not going to tell you that somebody from leadership came and told me to do this, that, or the other. And let me tell you why this election is so important. Because Winston Churchill once said, the West is the hope of the world. And he was talking about the U.S. And the U.S. is the hope of the West. South Carolina is the hope of the U.S. The South, people fought and bled and died for this state. And I'm going to tell you right here, the crown jewel of the South is the 4th Congressional District. And if we don't elect a conservative here, it can't be done in New Jersey, Illinois, or anywhere else. It's got to be done here. I need your vote. LeeBrightForCongress.com.
Gentlemen, thank you both for being here. I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. This is an important vote coming up June the 26th. Thank you all for being here. And we're going to take a quick time out with our radio audience, and we'll be back in just a moment here on 94.5 WGTK, The Answer.